you smell what The Rock is cooking? The Rock says, know your damn role.
In the most basic terms, when most people think of Dwayne Johnson, they think of the big Hollywood star who made a name for himself during his days as a professional wrestler. Wrestling fans, however, know that there's much more to The Rock than just a guy who used to wrestle. To say that Rocky stood out among his peers would be an incredible understatement. Fans gravitated towards The Rock thanks to his sheer charisma mixed in with his ability to entertain, and even fans back in the 90s knew that Dwayne Johnson was special long before his days in Hollywood. It was during 1998 where The Rock really came out of his shell as a performer, and after leaving the Nation of Domination faction, Rocky was in the perfect position to become one of the WWF's top babyfaces. What you have to understand here is that over a period of around 3 months, Rocky's popularity was sent into orbit. This wasn't your standard push where the company tested a new wrestler at the top. Rocky's rise in popularity was 100% natural, it wasn't manufactured, fans genuinely loved the guy, and the WWF wisely took notice. Just when it was time to pull the trigger and crown The Rock as the number one babyface in the company by awarding him the WWF title, the company decided to do a complete 180 and turn The Rock into the World Wrestling Federation's number one bad guy. The number one bad guy who was also awarded the championship. So what we're going to do today is take a look at The Rock's time as the corporate champion. As mentioned, The Rock gained a ridiculous amount of popularity during the final days of the Nation of Domination. Rock's promos and catchphrases caught on in a big way, and it wasn't long before The Rock had become one of the most entertaining things about the World Wrestling Federation. Fans would look forward to his promos just as much as his matches, and it didn't matter if Rock was going up against good guys or bad guys. People in attendance and viewers at home just couldn't get enough of Rocky. On the September 14th, 1998 episode of Raw, The Rock told his Nation teammates to stay in the back while he took on Kane. And while The Rock's popularity had been building up prior to this encounter, it was really here where the fans totally embraced the Great One. The fan reaction to the People's Elbow was incredible. When The Undertaker interfered in the match, the crowd booed relentlessly, and so fans had a good idea that The Rock was going to turn into a good guy following this very match. A little later on, The Undertaker faced Mankind, and Rocky helped Mick Foley by taking out the Dead Man and saving Mankind from a Brothers of Destruction beatdown. All this did was help Rocky get even more popular with fans. The following week, Stone Cold Steve Austin needed a tag team partner, and Vince McMahon asked 3 guys not to team up with Austin. Those 3 guys were Mankind, Ken Shamrock, and The Rock. If these guys agreed not to partner up with Austin, then they could compete in a number one contendership triple threat match at the end of Raw. The 3 men agreed, the match took place, but Vince McMahon allowed the Brothers of Destruction to destroy all 3 men, and we didn't get a clear winner. Because of the outcome, a rematch was scheduled for the Breakdown pay-per-view. This time, the 3 competitors would face off inside a steel cage. And if you want the perfect example of how popular The Rock was during this time period just before he turned corporate, then make sure you check out this pay-per-view. I've never been a big fan of triple threat matches, but this one is fantastic. The crowd really gets into it, they go nuts for The Rock here. And if the 14th of September episode of Raw gave us hints about where the company was going with Rocky, then the Breakdown pay-per-view completely solidified it. Rock ended up winning the bout. Pinfalls counted inside this steel cage match, and Rock pinned Shamrock just before Mankind could climb down from the cage. Steve Austin lost the World Wrestling Federation Championship at Breakdown, and The Undertaker vs Kane became the main event for the Judgment Day pay-per-view. The championship would be on the line here, even though The Rock was still number one contender, and so The Rock would have to wait to get his title shot. Rock, Shamrock and Mankind teamed up to take on the Brothers of Destruction in the Raw main event, and The Rock ended the match by hitting a rock bottom on Undertaker and scoring a big pinfall win. The following week, a singles match was booked between Taker and Rock, and Nation members D'Lo and Mark Henry came out to support Rocky. When Kane showed up to even the odds, the Nation decided to leave Rock all on his own, and eventually The Undertaker defeated Rock. The following week, during a tag team match where Rock teamed up with Steve Austin to battle Kane and Taker, D'Lo and Henry turned on Rock, meaning The Rock was no longer associated with the Nation of Domination. The faction itself was pretty much done with. To tie up these loose ends, The Rock faced Mark Henry at the Judgment Day pay-per-view 6 days later, and thanks to D'Lo, Mark Henry was able to defeat The Rock. On the grand scheme of things, it didn't really matter. Rock was still the number one contender, and he still maintained his popularity. Neither Taker nor Kane won the WWF Championship in the Judgment Day main event, so Vince McMahon decided to hold a tournament at Survivor Series to crown a new champion. The Deadly Game tournament would feature The Rock, Steve Austin, Undertaker, Kane, Ken Shamrock, among others, but Vince McMahon's pick to win the whole thing was Mankind. Vince McMahon began manipulating Foley in the run-up to Survivor Series, while The Rock became an enemy of the chairman. And over the next few episodes of Raw, the WWF went out of their way to make fans feel that Survivor Series was going to be The Rock's night. Through this short rivalry with McMahon, The Rock became even more popular with WWF fans. A lot of people thought the WWF's latest babyface would have his crowning moment at the Survivor Series, and when you watch the build-up back, all signs pointed to Survivor Series having a big, happy ending. Vince had taken away Rock's chance at competing in the Deadly Game tournament, and on the Raw before Survivor Series, Rock got himself added back in when he defeated Mark Henry. A babyface Shane McMahon countered the pinfall. After the match, The Rock nailed Vince with a rock bottom and a people's elbow, and the crowd went nuts. At Survivor Series 1998, The Rock defeated the Big Boss Man, Ken Shamrock, and The Undertaker in order to make it to the tournament finals. Mankind defeated Dwayne Gill, Al Snow, and Steve Austin on his journey to the finals, and so we had Vince McMahon's Mankind versus the People's Rock. Throughout the night, the fans cheered for the Great One while booing anyone associated with Vince McMahon, but when the pay-per-view ended, fans were left quite shocked at what took place during the tournament finals. The Rock did indeed become champion as predicted, but what absolutely no one saw coming was The Rock aligning himself with Vince McMahon in order to win the championship. You have to appreciate the risk involved here. The WWF had their next big babyface star in The Rock. The guy had become a natural fan favourite, he wasn't pushed down people's throats, and fans were buying tickets to specifically see The Rock perform. Keep in mind too that Rocky was only 26 years old at the time. The Rock was turned back into a heel when the Rockets were still strapped to his back. Fans wanted to cheer for Rocky, but effectively that was taken away from them. Understandably too, this was the Attitude Era and fans could cheer and boo for whoever they wanted. But babyfaces and heels still existed in the World Wrestling Federation, and the biggest heels were usually those associated with the evil Vince McMahon. Also, I hope this isn't coming across as a negative because the end of Survivor Series is still one of my favourite moments of The Rock's whole career. I really enjoy seeing Rock play the bad guy, but it was such an unexpected swerve when you consider everything that was potentially on the line by having The Rock turn on the people. After Vince and Shane screwed over Mankind in the same manner as Bret Hart the year prior, The Rock was named the Corporate Champion. Vince McMahon didn't get his comeuppance after all, and now The Rock would enter into a feud with the man who got ripped off at Survivor Series, Mick Foley. Also, Steve Austin attacked The Rock at the very end of Survivor Series. Maybe this was a sign of things to come. To their credit, the WWF still understood that The Rock was popular even though he was now the corporate champion. And although Rocky was still aligned with Vince McMahon, he was still given plenty of opportunities to be funny and entertaining. The next night on Raw, The Rock said he didn't sell out, he got ahead. Rocky said that he done what he had to do to get on top of the world, and that's why he's standing in the middle of the corporate ring right now as the WWF champion. The Rock says he never forgot what the fans chanted in the past, and we get a little throwback here to when The Rock joined the Nation.
Die, Rocky, die.
And The Rock went on to take more away from the people by saying he will raise the corporate eyebrow and drop the corporate elbow. Rocky wraps it up by saying he'd rather kiss Vince McMahon's ass than kiss up to the people. That same night, Steve Austin got a shot at The Rock's title, but thanks to the corporation and The Undertaker, The Rock was able to leave the arena still the corporate champ. The rivalry between The Rock and Stone Cold kinda went on the back burner while The Rock feuded with Mankind. The plan was for Austin to win the championship at WrestleMania, and so he and Rock were put on separate paths that would lead to the same destination, bumping into each other a few times on their way to the big show. I recently talked quite a bit about Mankind and The Rock's series of matches around this time period, and I don't want to go over the same things again, but in short, their matches ranged from good to great, showing us again that the WWF knew fully well that The Rock was still popular even as a heel. The December 1998 In Your House event was named Rock Bottom, The Rock's very own pay-per-view show. The entranceway for Rock Bottom was decked out with giant banners of the corporate champion, and The Rock looked pretty impressed with the Rock Bottom set as he walked down to the ring to face Mankind while also defending his title. The Rock left the arena still the champion after Mankind got screwed over again by Vince McMahon, and from here, The Rock and Mankind would trade the WWF Championship over the course of a few months. Mick Foley's title win over The Rock was an important night in the history of Monday Night Raw, but Foley also said that he felt putting the championship on him could potentially hurt The Rock as a main eventer. Mick's goal here throughout this entire rivalry was to make The Rock look as good as he could be in the run-up to WrestleMania 15, to give Rocky a mean streak heading into his match with Austin. And after watching Mick's recent interview on the Broken Skull sessions on the network, you'll learn that Mick was being seriously unselfish during this whole feud. He was determined to make Rock a legit megastar on his way to the biggest event of the year. At the 1999 Royal Rumble though, where Rock would win the WWF Championship back, things may have gone a little too far. The Rock absolutely destroyed Foley with a bunch of unprotected chair shots, and even Foley himself admitted that it was too much. But still, even though Rock hit Foley more times than what was initially agreed, The Rock came out of the Royal Rumble I Quit match looking like a total badass. What we shouldn't overlook either is the fact that The Rock was involved in the Royal Rumble match itself. The corporate champ decided to come down and distract Steve Austin at the very end of the bout, resulting in Vince McMahon winning the Royal Rumble. Come to think of it, it's incredible how many times the bad guys were victorious on pay-per-views around this time period. Following the Royal Rumble, Vince McMahon decided to forfeit his right to wrestle the champion at WrestleMania. Mr. McMahon believed he himself would then be able to handpick The Rock's opponent at Mania, but that wasn't the case. Commissioner Shawn Michaels surprised Vince McMahon by revealing that if a Royal Rumble winner forfeits their title shot, then whoever came second in the Rumble would face the champion at Mania, meaning Steve Austin was now scheduled to face The Rock. At the St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view, Austin got himself a match with McMahon. Austin put his WrestleMania title shot on the line here just to get his hands on the boss, and Stone Cold ended up winning this highly entertaining matchup. As for The Rock, well, Rocky lost the title in the halftime heat empty arena match. I just uploaded a video looking at this whole thing, so I won't spend time on it here. But Mankind won the championship for the second time at halftime heat, so another Rock vs Mankind match took place at St. Valentine's Day Massacre, a last man standing match that ended in a draw. When the St. Valentine's Day Massacre pay-per-view ended, the main event for Mania was Mankind vs Austin, but the next night on Raw, a ladder match was booked between Rock and Mankind. The WWF title was on the line, and whoever won this match would headline WrestleMania with Stone Cold. Thanks to Paul White, The Rock won the championship for the third time in just 3 months, and the main event for Mania 15 was now set in stone. The 22nd of February episode of Raw saw The Rock tease a face turn when he challenged Paul White to a match, and what's noteworthy here is that the fans instantly got behind The Rock once again when he cut a promo on White. White, of course, would soon get renamed to The Big Show. The fans went nuts when Rock challenged Paul to a match, And this tells us that The Rock didn't lose any popularity at all over these last few months. If anything, fans wanted to get behind the Great One once again. Mick Foley wanted to referee this Paul White vs The Rock match that was going to take place on Raw, but in the end it was all a big setup. Foley took a beating from both Rocky and White as Vince watched on with a big smile across his face. Even after this beating, Mankind wanted to referee the Austin vs Rock match at WrestleMania, and Mick earned the right to be the secondary referee after he defeated Steve Austin via countout on the 8th of March episode of Raw. Big Show refereed this match, and because Show awarded Mankind the victory, The Rock got pissed off. The next week, The Rock made Vince McMahon fully aware that he wasn't happy with how this Big Show thing was turning out, and while McMahon was able to bring the two men back together and get everyone back on the same page, you could tell that seeds were being planted for Rocky to once again become a babyface. Fans were being given reasons to cheer for The Rock. It wouldn't happen until after WrestleMania though. The big main event had to feature the classic good guy versus bad guy formula, but it wouldn't take long for the Corporate Rock to switch back to the People's Rock following WrestleMania 15. WrestleMania then, The Rock's first WrestleMania main event, and he walks in as the corporate champion. I'd like to say that this one was unpredictable, but really it was very far from unpredictable. Steve Austin had been getting screwed over by Vince McMahon for months and months, and the corporation had been pretty dominant in the run-up to Mania. Fans were buying WrestleMania to see Steve Austin win the title back, and that's exactly what they got. Vince McMahon tried to referee the match, but Commissioner Michaels made sure that didn't happen. And after a physical encounter between Rock and Austin, it was Mick Foley who ended up counting the Rock's shoulders to the mat. It's a good WrestleMania main event for sure, but for me, it isn't the best Rock vs Austin match. Steve Austin dethroned the corporate champion at the biggest event of the year, and now it was time to end The Rock's association with Vince McMahon and finally begin the real babyface run of The Rock. Before doing that though, the WWF would get one more Corporate Rock vs Steve Austin match on pay-per-view. On the Raw after Mania, The Rock faced Billy Gunn, and the Great One got a great ovation after winning the match. Steve Austin, meanwhile, wanted to get his Smoking Skull WWF Championship belt back from Vince McMahon, and Shane McMahon decided to give the belt to The Rock instead, and so the weeks leading up to Backlash was all about Steve Austin trying to get his belt back. Also, during this time period, the corporation itself was seemingly falling apart. Vince McMahon was more interested in protecting his daughter Stephanie from The Undertaker, and Shane McMahon saw this as an opportunity to take control of the faction. Corporate members were slowly leaving the group, and at the same time, new members were being added, such as Triple H and Chyna. On the April 12th episode of Raw, The Rock brought Austin's belt to a bridge and he challenged Stone Cold to come and get it back. Austin showed up to claim back his belt, but both Austin and the Smoking Skull belt got thrown off the bridge. The next week, Austin's funeral took place on Raw, but the Rattlesnake showed up in a monster truck, and Stone Cold not only wrecked Rocky's Lincoln Continental, but Austin also totally wrecked The Rock. Stone Cold had got his Smoking Skull belt back, it seemed, but Raw ended with Shane McMahon attacking Austin from behind, and the belt was reclaimed by the corporation. So now we had to wait until Backlash later in the week to see if Stone Cold could get his belt back once again. Just like WrestleMania, this one felt predictable. Even with Shane McMahon as the special referee, it just didn't feel like The Rock was going to win this one. Shane ended up getting taken out by Vince, Austin hits a stunner on Rock, and Austin also hits Rock with the WWF belt to win the match. Vince gives Austin the Smoking Skull belt back to end the pay-per-view. The Rock officially left the corporation the following night on Raw. Rocky gave credit to Steve Austin during an in-ring promo, but Rock also ripped into Shane McMahon. Rock said he would have beaten Austin all on his own, and he didn't want nor need the help of Shane during the Backlash main event. Shane came out and called Rock a loser. Shane accused Rock of kissing up to the people during his match against Austin, and it's The Rock's fault that the championship isn't within the corporation. Triple H ends up attacking Rock, leading to Chyna also getting in a cheap shot, and eventually The Rock is getting beaten up by the whole corporation before Shane announces that The Rock is officially fired from the group. Later on, Shane and Rock had a match. The Rock had it in the bag, but Triple H came out to attack the Great One. And that was the end of Corporate Rock and the heel run that began at Survivor Series 1998. The Corporate Champ had some great moments, but what you'll learn when watching all this back is that the fans just wanted a reason to keep cheering for Rocky. The Rock became an excellent rival for the ultra-over Stone Cold Steve Austin, and thankfully, the Rock vs Austin rivalry would continue throughout the years, and The Rock's time in the corporation really laid the groundwork for what many consider to be the greatest rivalry in the history of professional wrestling. In the end, the Corporate Rock stuff didn't hinder Rock's inevitable babyface run at the top. If anything, it showed us that The Rock could lead the way whether he played a good guy or a bad guy. And thankfully, we would get to see The Rock play the villain again in 2003 during his Hollywood Rock run. I made a video all about that, so check it out when you get a chance. Anyway, that'll do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and thank you very much for watching.
Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?